Primetime CP23 here, back with another Diablo 3 video. Today, we're looking at a starter build guide for the Monk. This is kind of a weird build. I didn't actually think that this is how this video was going to turn out, but in the little bit of testing that I've done, it seems like the best way for the Monk to clear a greater F20 is going to be by using a weird generator type build. Which sounds weird, but it'd be awesome if something would pull. But yeah. So, because of the way that this set bonus works, you have to be up close to enemies to make your decoys hit, because your decoys, while they don't do hardly any damage on higher level greater rifts, it is still about a 3,000% damage multiplier, so it's still doing enough to kill things. So that's why you see I am still using Sweeping Wind. That was a big dead end, which is kind of annoying. And I'm also using Crippling Wave and Exploding Palm. The Exploding Palm doesn't really do much, I'm going to be honest, because we're not using any Uliana pieces. We're not like automatically applying EP, and we're just skipping that elite because elites with this build are already kind of hard to deal with, and yeah, we don't need something with a mortar, because mortar is going to be horrible. This pack is going to suck. Just like seemingly all of the Monk generator builds, we're very squishy, which is annoying, but that's just kind of how it goes. We may die here. Yeah, we're going to die if we keep standing there. We'll just kind of have to keep trying to pull. So there's that elite. Just gives you kind of an idea of what you're going to do. Ideally, when you're actually in your GR20 solo, ideally you will have at least a couple greater rifts under your belt already, so that you'll have a Bane of the Stricken. You may not have Bane of the Stricken. That may just be a pipe dream. But if you can have Bane of the Stricken, it'll help a lot, because you are kind of just Crippling Wave, pounding away at your enemies for extended periods of time. So if you had a Bane of the Stricken, it would greatly help. I don't know if you're gonna I don't know how quickly you're gonna be able to get to your GR20, so you may not have enough GRs down to have unlocked Bane of the Stricken yet, but just kind of gotta see. And this should pop the Guardian. And there we go. And it's my least favorite Guardian. I really don't like... I really hate Orlash, I'm not gonna lie. But as you can see, when he does his fire breath, I just kind of teleport to the other side of him, or dashing strike to the opposite side of him, so that he doesn't actually hit me with it. And I just kind of pound away. And again, if I had Bane of the Stricken, he'd already be dead. So just keep that in mind. If at all possible, Bane of the Stricken is going to make this fight a lot more manageable. If he ever dies, then I'll get into the skills. I'm about to die. There we go. Here, I was afraid I was going to die. So I have no idea what gem I'm leveling. Red Soul Shard. That's fun. Alrighty, so jumping right into the skills. As I mentioned, we've got Crippling Wave Tsunami, which is going to freeze enemies on the third hit. We've got Cyclone Strike with the Implosion Rune, which simply is the biggest pull. Exploding Palm with Essence Burn. You could also probably use Thy Flesh is Weak to make enemies take more damage while they've been marked with Exploding Palm. And of course, Impending Doom is also a option here, as that is plain and simple the most damage that an Exploding Palm can do. So it's kind of up to you. Sweeping Wind with the Blade Storm rune. You could also use the Firestorm rune, because this is going to give you the biggest vortex. Or if you decide to do something like, instead of Exploding Palm, using something like either Lashing Tail Kick or Wave of Light, just depending on what legendaries you get along the way. You could also use Inner Storm, which is going to bring back your spirit every second that it's up. Then Dashing Strike for the mobility. I chose Quicksilver simply because it gives you a third charge. And Epiphany with the Desert Shroud rune, which is just going to reduce your damage taken. If you're not worried about toughness and you want to go full Glass Cannon, and you did get something like maybe an Incense Torch or a Rivera Dancers, if you're going LTK, you could use Insight, which is going to boost your spirit regeneration. It kind of just depends on what legendaries you get going into this. For passives, for this variation that I'm using here, where we're using Crippling Wave as the main damage dealer, I chose Alacrity to increase the attack speed of your spirit generators. Relentless Assault is going to deal 20% more damage to enemies that are blind, frozen, or stunned. And obviously, Crippling Wave freezes your enemies. Then Seize the Initiative for the same reason as Alacrity, just to give you more attack speed. And Near Death Experience for that cheat death. As for the equipment we're using, the gear, as always, marquee level gems. I'm only using 3 pieces of the Sunwuko set because, again, I have mostly ancient Sunwuko gear. So I'm using my Sunwuko Shines, my really poorly rolled Sunwuko's Shoulders, and my fairly poorly rolled Sunwuko Gloves. And then all yellow gear except for the belt, because the way that the 6-piece for Sunwuko's works is for every stack of Sweeping Wind you have, you're doing more damage. And it works the same way with the 4-piece as well. Every second Sweeping Wind spawns a decoy next to the enemy you last hit, taunts the enemies nearby, and explodes for 1000% weapon damage for each stack of Sweeping Wind you have. Plain and simple, Kirishiro's Soul is going to give you 2 stacks every second that you have not done damage to an enemy. So the way Sweeping Wind works, as it is, when you get a critical hit, you gain another stack. So as you attack as fast as you possibly can and hit all these enemies in a circle, you're going to be gaining critical hits anyway. So if you're attacking, you're going to get critical hits, and it's going to buff up your Sweeping Wind. If you're not attacking enemies, your Kirishiro's Soul is going to give you those stacks of Sweeping Wind anyway. So it works either way. The belt is going to be one of the first items that I roll for, one of the first items that I would look for. If you want to go full damage, you can always be rolling for something like Pinto's Pride, which is going to increase your Wave of Light damage, or something like Kirishiro's Blade, which is also going to give you a big damage buff. The other option is you could look for an Incense Torch of the Grand Temple, because that's going to be a Diablo, which is the same thing that the Flying Dragon is. So, if you're upgrading Diabos, if for some reason you have a bunch of Death's Breaths laying around early season, which I don't think you will, but if you do, and you're upgrading Diabos, you have a pretty good shot of getting either a Flying Dragon or an Incense Torch. And even if you don't get one of those, you could also get a... I don't actually remember which item it is. I believe it's this this War Staff of General Quang, which is going to give Tempest Rush an extra rune, and the actual item, I believe, gives you a damage buff on Tempest Rush as well. So, nope, it's Balance. Balance is the one I was thinking of that gives you a damage buff for Tempest Rush. So, and if you have to use Tempest Rush, you still can. If you get a Balance before you get an Incense Torch, that's fine, because you can use Tempest Rush with the 6-piece Monkey King's Garb set. So, either way, it's a relatively versatile set. It gives you a lot of options. There's a lot of legendary items. If you get any of these legendary items, it's going to make your time a lot easier early season until you get the optimal gear, which, of course, the optimal version for Sunwuko is going to be Wave of Light. But, ladies and gentlemen, I've rambled long enough. We're going to call that the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please stay tuned for the rest of my Diablo 3 Season 13 starter build guides. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Primetime CP23, and I'm out.